Welcome to this webinar on approving free and reduced price applications. In this webinar, we'll be discussing how to approve or process free and reduced price applications. We have another webinar that discusses the application process and what forms you need to send out at the beginning of the year, so please make sure to watch that webinar also. Throughout this presentation, we'll be referencing the Free and Reduced Price Handbook and the Eligibility Manual. The Free and Reduced Price Handbook and all the attachments are on our website under Free and Reduced Price Information, and the Eligibility Manual is put out by the USDA and is on our website under Handbooks. We'll start by discussing the application. This is the 2019-20 application. It is the same as what it was last year. Households are instructed to apply for meal benefits by filling out certain parts of this two-page application. Households will start with Step 1. There are a total of 4 steps. In Step 1, they list all infants, children, and students up to and including grade 12 in their household. In Step 2, it asks if they have any household members who currently participate in one or more of the following assistance programs: SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or third, FDPIR, Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations. In Step 3, they report income for all household members. They can skip this step if they answered yes to Step 2. And then in Step 4, they provide their contact information and adult signature. The back of the application has the optional question about the children's race and ethnic identities. It also provides some information about income sources, and it provides the USDA non-discrimination statement. When you first receive an application, you'll mark on it the date it was received. This will allow you to track how long it takes to approve an application, and you'll also give you the date of eligibility if you have informed us at DESE that you will use the date of submission as the eligibility date. For more information on that, please refer to the application process webinar. The next thing you'll need to do when you receive the application is to determine which type of application it is. There are 3 main types of applications. The first is the Assistance Program or Case Number application. This is where they put a case number for SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR. The next is an other source categorically eligible application where they will indicate if they are foster, homeless, runaway, or migrant. And the last main type is the income application where they will apply for benefits by listing their income. You could also have a mixed application where some students are other source categorically eligible and some students are eligible based on income. Assistance program applications trump other eligibilities. So first, check if there is a case number on the application that they participate in an assistance program. If there's a case number, process it as an assistance program application. This is an example of an assistance program application. They list a case number, so you'll process it as an assistance program application. So even though they didn't circle yes or no on Step 2, they did provide a case number. So that's why you'll process it as assistance program. Next in the hierarchy is the other source categorically eligible application. If the application does not have a case number, other source categorical eligibility trumps income, so check if the student is marked as foster or homeless, runaway, or migrant. If they are, process the application as other source categorically eligible. This is an example of an other source categorical eligible application. If they marked that they were a foster or homeless runaway or migrant, you will use that information to process the application. So on this application, they were marked as homeless, migrant, or runaway. The last type of application is an income application. So if the application does not have a case number and they're not marked as other source categorically eligible, then process the application as an income application. This is an example of an income application. They listed the income, but it doesn't have a case number and no one's checked as foster or homeless. You may have an application that has some students listed as other source categorically eligible and other students who are not. Process those marked as other source categorically eligible for the individual students and the income for the other students listed on the application. After you've determined what type of application it is, you'll follow these steps to process the application. We'll talk about how to apply each of these steps to each type of application. So first you'll determine if the application is complete, then you'll determine the eligibility, you'll record the eligibility and complete the school use section of the application, then you'll notify the households and you'll update your benefit issuance and point of service documentation. The first step in processing the application is determining if it is complete. An application must be complete with all the required information before it can be approved. If a household provides an incomplete application, the application must be denied. However, you should contact the household and try to get the information before denying it. So you should make every reasonable effort to obtain that missing information. To get the additional information, you can return the application to the household and request that they complete the information, or you can contact the child's parent or guardian by phone, by email, or via mail to obtain the missing or correct information. So make sure to document the details of the contact, dating and initialing the entry. For example, if they didn't list the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, you can call them and ask them for that information. Then you can complete that information on the application and make a note on the application of when you talk to the person and to get that additional information. However, you cannot sign the application for them. They will need to come in and sign it, or you'll need to return the application for them to sign. Also, you cannot use other student records to complete the application on their behalf. So we'll go ahead and talk about each type of application, how to determine if it's complete, and how to process it. The first type of application we'll discuss is the Assistance Program application, also called the Case Number application. For an assistance program or case number application to be complete, it must provide the names of the children for whom the application is made, SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR case number for the children or any other household member listed on the application, and the signature of the adult household member completing the application. This is an example of a complete assistance program application. It contains the names of the children applying for benefits. It contains the SNAP or TANF case number, and it contains the signature of the adult household member completing the application. So those 3 things make it complete. It doesn't need to include the Social Security number if it's a case number application, and it does not need to include that additional contact information or the building name or other household members to be considered complete. When making sure an assistance program application is complete, you'll also need to make sure that the case number is in a correct format. So the case number is a 10-digit number and the first 2 digits are zeros. They cannot use their 16-digit EBT card number, and they cannot use a Medicaid number in Missouri. Please make sure that the case number is in a correct format, and if it is not, follow up with the family to get the correct number. So looking at this case number application, we'll make sure that the case number is a 10-digit number with the first 2 digits as zeros. You can see that this particular case number is in a correct format. If an application is submitted with a case number, you're encouraged to review the direct certification list to see if any students are a match. If there's not a case number on the application, process the application based on other information that is there. If there is a case number, check the direct certification list. If the student is not a match on the direct certification list, then the household is still free based on the application, and the application is subject to verification. However, if the student is a match on the direct certification list for SNAP or TANF, then the entire household is eligible for free meals, and the application is not subject to verification and must be disregarded. If they're on a match on the direct certification list for foster only, then the benefits don't extend, but the application is not subject to verification. If the application is complete and has case number in the correct format, all students in the household are eligible for free meals. So once we've determined that the application was complete and the case number was in a correct format, we will record the eligibility and sign and date the application. So this bottom section of the application is where you will record this information. For this example, you'll mark that they have food stamps or SNAP or temporary assistance, and you'll mark that they will receive free eligibility, and then you'll sign and you will date the application. That last section for the confirming official, you do not need to complete at this time. That confirming official, a signature, is for verification only, so you don't need to complete that at this time. The next type of application we'll talk about is the other source categorical eligibility application. For an other source application to be complete, it must provide the names of the children applying for benefits, an indication of the child's categorical eligibility status, and the signature of the adult household member. In this example, it has a student wanting to receive benefits, and that student is marked as other source categorically eligible. In this case, they are marked as foster, and it also has the adult signature, so this application is complete. It just needs those 3 pieces of information. For a foster application, the appropriate box must be checked and the application must be complete. If you have a mixed household, the foster student would be free, but the other student's eligibility would be based on income that was reported. In that case, the foster child's income would also need to be included. This would be income from a part-time job or from any funds provided to the child for their personal use. Their income would not include payment received from a foster care agency or court for the care of the foster child. With a foster application, they are automatically approved as free. You take it at face value and you do not need to get official documentation. Now that we've determined that this foster application is complete, we'll continue processing. Since they marked other source categorically eligible as foster, they are automatically free. If the application is complete and the student's marked for foster, the child is eligible for free benefits. You'll need to complete the bottom of the application. For this example, you'll mark that they are approved as free because they are foster, and then you'll sign and date the application. It is a little different for other source categorically eligible that are not foster. If they mark the box that they are homeless, runaway, or migrant, then you need to follow up with your homeless liaison to confirm that they are in fact homeless. You can't just accept it like you would a foster. You need to follow up. So on this application, the application is complete. The student is listed, they are marked as homeless, and there is an adult signature. However, we cannot automatically approve a homeless application. You need to follow up with the homeless liaison to confirm that they are actually homeless. So that's different than foster. The next type of application is the income application. This is the most common type of application that you'll process. The majority of applications are income applications. A complete income application includes the name of all household members. That includes everyone in the household, including toddlers, other children who are no longer in school, and other household members. To be complete, it also needs to have the income and frequency of each household member. It also needs to have the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, or they need to indicate that they do not have a Social Security number, and it also has to have the adult signature. This is an example of an income application, so the information required for it to be complete are the names of the children that will be receiving the free or reduced meals, the names of all other household members. So on this one, we have an additional child who's not a student at that district, and then we also have all the adults listed on the application. It also needs to list the income information, or we'll see in a minute if there's no income, we'll also accept that. It needs to include the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, so right here, or they can check this box if they do not have a Social Security number. If this box is checked and there's no Social Security number, we'll still consider that okay to be complete. And the last thing that is needed is the adult signature. During reviews, the information we often find missing are that Social Security number or an indication that they don't have one, and then the adult signature. So make sure you're checking those to make sure the application is complete. An income application can also be complete if no income is listed. You'll request that applicants write a 0 when they don't have an income, but any income field that's left blank, we accept as no income. So if it's blank, you can automatically accept that as 0 income. If you have reason to question if there is income, you can call and just confirm that no, they do not have any income, but you can accept that blank income as 0 income. This is an example of a no income application. So you can see it's complete because it has the adult signature down here. It has the Social Security number. It has the students and all those in the household listed. But we would still accept this as complete even though there's no income listed, and we would accept that as 0 income. For income applications, to determine if the application can be approved for free or reduced, or if it will be denied, you will first calculate the income levels and then compare that income to the income eligibility guidelines. So we'll take a look at an example of that. In this example, both adults are paid on a bi-weekly basis, so we can add together their incomes. So here on a bi-weekly basis, we can add together their incomes. So to do this, we take $575 plus $600 is $1,175 on a bi-weekly basis. Then we will count their total household members. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 household members. Those are the numbers we need to check against the income eligibility guidelines. There is this box down here for the households to complete with how many household members they have, but you can only go off the actual number of household members that they actually have listed. So we have to count how many are listed. If there's a discrepancy between the number listed and the number they put in this box, and it makes a difference in the eligibility that they'll get, then you should contact the household to see if there are other household members that should be listed, and you can document that information on the application. If they just left off maybe a toddler, you can put that on the application, write in who you talked to, what day, and then process that application based on how many are actually in the household. So we will move on to the next, the income eligibility guidelines, to process this application. So to determine if they are eligible, you'll refer to these income eligibility guidelines. And these are the guidelines for school year 1920. To use this table, you'll compare the number of household members to the income to determine the eligibility. So we'll look at this household size, and we had 7 household members on this application. Then we'll look at the incomes. So in our example, we had $1,175 on a bi-weekly basis. So every 2 weeks they made $1,175. So right here we see if they made $19.51 or less, then they are approved for free meals. So since they fall into that category, then this household will be approved as free. If they made more than $19.51, then you would look at the reduced price meal requirement. So every 2 weeks and the reduced price, and see if they met that. But this particular household qualifies for free meals. So for this application, you'll mark that they had 7 household members. The total income was $1,175 that they received every 2 weeks, that they are approved as free, and then you will sign and date the application. It is very common to have income reported on more than one frequency. So one household member may be getting paid weekly and another paid monthly, or something like that. Income may be paid twice a month and child support might be received monthly. So in these cases, the income must be converted to an annual income in order to determine the eligibility. To do this, you'll use these conversion factors. Any weekly income you'll multiply by 52, bi-weekly by 26, twice a month by 24, and monthly by 12. Then you'll add the incomes together to calculate their annualized income. And then you'll compare that annual income to the eligibility guidelines to determine if they qualify for free or reduced meals. So these conversion factors are listed on the application at the bottom, so it's convenient that you don't even have to memorize these. They're listed on that application for you. So on this application, we have 2 different frequencies. We have this adult getting paid weekly, and we have this adult getting paid on a bi-weekly basis. So we have to annualize the income. So we'll convert each income to annual. So first, we multiply the $575 by 52 since they were getting paid weekly. and that equals $29,900. And I'll show you down here, this is where these conversion factors are listed, are down here. So weekly is times 52, every 2 weeks is 26. So you can refer to those without having to memorize these. So we converted the weekly income to annual, so then we'll do the same with the biweekly income. So multiply 600 times 26, since that's the conversion factor for biweekly, and that is 15,600. So then to get the annualized income, you'll add both of those together for a total of $45,500 each year. And then again, we'll count the number of household members. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 household members. So for this application, you'll list that they had 7 household members and they made $45,500 on a yearly basis. So then you'll take that information and you'll compare it to the income eligibility guidelines. So we'll look at the 7 household members and we'll look at the annual income. So for free meals, they have to make $50,713 or less to qualify for free meals. This household made $45,500, so that meets the requirement for free meals. So we'll go ahead and complete this application. We'll mark that they are qualified for free based on income and then sign and date. This is an example of an application with no income. So even though the income fields are blank, it would still be accepted as a complete application to be approved as for free meals. So this is how you'll complete that application. You'll put in the household size was 7, the total income was 0 since they left it blank, and then they are eligible for free meals, and you'll sign and you'll date. Some applications will have someone who is marked as foster or homeless and other students who will qualify based on income. The USDA refers to those as mixed applications. For a mixed application, you will process the student who is marked as other stores categorically eligible individually. If they're marked as foster, you will automatically approve them as free. If they are marked as homeless, you will follow up with your homeless liaison to confirm that they are homeless and then certify them as free. And then you'll process the other students based on their income, but you will also include that foster or homeless child as a household member. In this example, the first student is marked as foster, so they will receive free meals. Then we will need to calculate the income for the remaining students. Again, on this application, we have multiple income frequencies, so we need to annualize the income. So we have 575 on a weekly basis, so 575 times 52 is $29,900, and then the other income is $1,000 on a biweekly basis. So 1,000 times 26 is $26,000. We'll add those together for an annual combined income of $55,900 each year. And then we will count the household members. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 household members. We include this foster child as one of the household members to qualify the other students for free or reduced. So then we compare the information we just calculated to the income eligibility guidelines. We had 7 household members, and they made $55,900 yearly. So first we will look at the free category. In order to be free, they would need to make $50,713 or less, and they made $55,900, so they do not qualify for that free meals. They make too much for free, so then we'll go ahead and take a look at reduced. To qualify for reduced, they need to make $72,169 or less. And since they made $55,900, that falls in that category, so they would be approved for reduced. So on this application, since we had a foster student and we had others qualified for reduced, we actually have two eligibilities listed on one application. So schools need to have a way to document these multiple eligibilities, and different schools will do it different ways. You could make a copy of the application and put a status for the foster child on one copy and the status for the other children on the other copy. You could attach a note on the application of which status, or you could document directly on the application. On this application, we documented both statuses with some additional notes. So we noted on there that there's free and reduced, and we noted Leonard was free because he's foster, and then Arthur, Julius, and Milton were reduced based on that annual income. After you have determined if the application was completed, determined what eligibility they qualify for, and recorded the eligibility, signed and dated the application, you'll notify the household of the approval or denial. When an application is approved, you must notify the household. If they're approved, you can do this in writing by email or mail, or you can also let them know verbally. If you choose to notify the household in writing, you can use the form letter provided in the free and reduced price handbook. If the application is denied, you cannot notify them verbally. You have to do it in writing. You can do it either by mail or email. So this notice must include the reason they were denied. It must let them know they have the right to appeal, and let them know they have the ability to reapply at any time during the school year. And again, you can use the form letter in the free and reduced price handbook. The last step is to update the benefit issuance and point of service documents. This should really be done at the same time that you send the approval or denial. Your benefit issuance document is your list of free and reduced students that also includes how the eligibility status was determined. If you have a computer system that you enter your eligibilities, then this benefit issuance document is within your computer system. The point of service document is the document at the point of service that lists the student's eligibilities. Again, if you have a computer system, this is within the computer system, and your benefit issuance document and point of service document is likely the same computer program. Whenever possible, applications should be processed immediately, but they must be processed within 10 operating days of receiving the application. So within the 10 operating days of receiving the application, you must determine what the eligibility status is that they'll receive. You must notify the household of the status, and you must update your benefit issuance and point of service documents. On the methods of collection meal counting form, it asks if you'll use the date of submission as the effective date of eligibility. So the date you enter into your benefit issuance and point of service documents will depend on how you answer this question. So this is the last question on that form, and it asks if you will use the date of submission as the effective date of eligibility. If you marked this question yes, then you would use the date the household turned in their application. So if they turned it in on Monday and you approved it on Friday, you would use the Monday as the date of eligibility. If they had charges in between the time of submission and approval, then you would need to refund those charges to the student. If you mark no on this question on the method of collection form, then you will use the date you approved the application as the start date of eligibility. So if they turned in the application on Monday and you approved it on Friday and you have this marked no, then you'll use Friday as the date that they are eligible. If you're not sure what you marked on that form, please contact us and we can look it up for you. And if you want to change that answer to the question, you can always submit a new form along with a new signed policy statement to us. That form does not need to be turned in every year, only if you need to make changes. Please also make sure that you do not backdate the student's eligibility prior to either the date of submission or the date of approval. Do not backdate to the beginning of the year. You can only approve them as either as of the date of submission or the date of approval. And also keep in mind that applications that are incomplete are considered paid until the required information is obtained. So that is the last step in approving applications. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me by email or phone.